A lot of times we come to spaces like this, and I give conversations and talks like this, and we want to be more impactful. We want to increase our income. We want to do more in our businesses. We want to do more for our communities. But before impact can happen, I believe unpacking needs to happen. Before impact can happen, I believe unpacking needs to happen, whether it's finding the root cause of the actual issue in our communities, whether it's going back and pulling the curtain back in our businesses and understanding where the actual financial problems are, whether it's really having a tough sit down with your spouse and actually asking what are the challenges in our marriage or the relationship where we keep meeting the same issues. So the question that I want us to start with is that if you lost your voice today and your heart stopped beating, what have you actually built that can speak for you? See, we talked about protection in our last conversation, and a lot of us don't have a succession plan. A lot of us don't have an estate plan. A lot of us don't have businesses. If you had to take off for the next 6 to 12 months, you don't have a business that can run without you. You don't have resources and assets and capital that can take care of your family if you just found out that your mom was in the hospital. Do you have enough access to credit to be able to leverage credit to be able to run your business for the next year? See, when I was 16 years old, I had to be faced with this question. I walked into my house. My father was sitting down like you're sitting right here. And he said, "Kyle, I need you to sit down for a second." I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Just sit down for a second." My father's a very stoic guy. He's from South Jersey, very stoic, not very emotional. So when he's sitting down, I'm thinking something's going on, something's wrong. So they just got back from a cruise, so I'm thinking I don't see my mom in the house. I don't hear my brother or sister. So I'm thinking maybe something happened with my sister, my brother, or my mother. He said, "Kyle, I just need to talk to you for a second." So I sit down, and he says, "Son, Dietrich died." I said, "What?" My high school best friend, like a brother to me. A wave of emotions came, but I really at that time didn't really know how to process or identify what emotions I felt. So the first question that came to my mind was, what happened? He said he was in the car with 3 other people, and all of them died because nobody had their seatbelt on. 16 years old. And at that time, I didn't really know how to respond. How do you respond to somebody, whether it's your father or not, at 16 years old, that your best friend, and then 3 of his friends passed away because of one decision? One decision that we had the opportunity and the power to take advantage of. But it wasn't until I went to his open casket funeral, where about 10 feet where you're sitting, I'm walking down, and just puddles of tears start coming down my cheeks, start coming down my eyes, because I see Dietrich laying there in his lifeless, cold body. And in a lot of the rooms that I come into, similar to today, is that there's somebody in here, and there's many people that identify like Dietrich today. That maybe your business didn't work out, so you've lost your spark. Maybe that relationship didn't work out, so you kind of gave up on marriage. Maybe you didn't get that opportunity, that brand deal, so you feel fear marketing your business. And the reality of it is that before you can unpack what's going on and the actual challenges and the root cause of what's going on, you will not be impactful in your business. So yes, I'm here to talk about your stories, yes. But the reality of it is that without a story and you understanding what your story is, you're allowing your community, you're allowing these generational patterns, you're allowing white or black people to write it for you. And until you take advantage of being the author of your own story, the story that you're writing on a daily basis, whether you believe it or not, is the story that you're believing. So there's 3 things that I'm going to talk to you all about today. And I want this to be a conversation. I want y'all to talk back to me, that I believe have been transformational in me building a scalable and a systemized business to a point where I don't have to work in my business anymore. The first thing that I want y'all to repeat after me is your words. Say it, your words. The second thing is your will. And the third thing is your why. I believe before we learn how to talk, the first language that we learn is the language of experience. As a young man growing up, like most black men, I didn't have parents that provided for me emotionally. Now, I didn't grow up in poverty. I had parents that did very well financially, corporate jobs, never had to worry about anything. But in regards to those emotional intelligence, in regards to the mental health, in regards to all of those different things, I didn't have that growing up. And it took experience after experience after experience for it to teach me that I'm good enough, that I'm worthy of standing up for myself, that I'm worthy of all of these different things. So for me, being a son of a two-parent home, I recognize the value of family. I recognize how a father should be with his son, how my father took me to opportunities where he spoke, so I brought my son here with me. I understood the importance of exposure, and that in our educational system, I believe, yes, it's an achievement gap, but I believe that starts because there's a lack of an exposure to all of our opportunities and our students from culturally diverse backgrounds. So with my experience, I was so excited when I got the call when my first son was being born. I was interning with BMW at the time in Greenville, South Carolina. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting at the desk, and then she called. She said, "Hey, we're ready." I'm like, oh my God. So she was in Atlanta at the time. So I asked my boss if I could leave. So I jetted from that place. I'm running to my car, and I'm thinking about all of the words, all of the things that my father told me to get excited about. The opportunities to be able to just roll in the car with him, walking in the mall, sharing these types of experiences, reading books at night, staying up at night, even though that was the worst part, all of those different things. Just all of the moments and the memories that I'd be able to create with him growing up. So I get about 30 minutes, because I drove from Greenville, South Carolina to Atlanta, Georgia. So I get about 30 minutes away. Her mom calls me on the phone. She said, "Kyle, slow down. I got to tell you something." I said, "No, I'm almost there." She said, "Kyle, no, I just need to tell." I said, "Miss Cheney, I'm almost there." She said, "Kyle, he died." I said, "Say that again?" She said the umbilical cord got caught around his neck, and there was nothing that they could do. And that Bria would have to give birth to a lifeless child. So here I'm faced again with another opportunity where I have to make a decision. Similar to Dietrich, when I saw his lifeless body, I didn't just see his lifeless body. I saw a 6'8", 235 kid that already committed to Duke basketball the next year. He was the one in our community that was going to make it out. He was the one that was going to go play Duke basketball. We already talked about it. I saw Dietrich's plans. I saw Dietrich's potential. I saw Dietrich's dreams sitting in a casket. Similar to Braxton. When I showed up at the hospital and I looked at Bria, it's like, what do you say? All you can do is console. And a lot of us right now, we're in a place where we birth something. We're in a place where we've been working for 9 months for that funding. We've been working for 9 months for that grant. We've been working for 9 months on that book. We've been working for 9 months in that relationship, and something snatches us from us, and now we are faced with a decision. Do we just console and sit back? What is required for us as individuals, as entrepreneurs, as authors, as entertainers, as educators, all of us in here? What is required for us on that other side? See, this is where those words started coming in again. See, because then I was like, well, maybe it was my fault. Maybe if I wasn't at work, maybe this, maybe that, maybe I could have done something different. Maybe it's the doctors. See, for y'all, maybe it's your clients. Maybe it's just the community that you're in. It's everybody else except you. Or sometimes God has a different plan for you. And I told God in that moment, when we were at Braxton's funeral, I said, God, if you ever give me the opportunity to have a son again, ever, I won't do you wrong. And I'll do everything in my power to be the best possible father, despite the statistics of black men in America, to be able to raise this son with love, emotional intelligence, to be able to provide the resources so that he could be successful, no matter what. Fast forward some years later, moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, where he was being born, left the job, left opportunities, left everything behind so that I could be able to honor that promise. See, I think a lot of times we get favor, but we're not obedient. See, I think a lot of times we forget that somebody else's destiny is attached to your obedience. So if you don't write that book, if you don't build that business, what community starves because you didn't do it? Because you wanted to be secure in that job and not actually operate in purpose. So I moved to Charlotte. I'm there. 6 months into it, I recognized that I didn't have a financial coach. My parents said, no, we're not helping you because you weren't doing it our way. You didn't go get the corporate job. You wanted to be an entrepreneur, and that's not the way that we grew up. So no, we're not supporting you. They cut me off. So 6 months into my stay, I'm in an extra bedroom of my friend's house with this young man on an air mattress with nothing. And it took me sitting on the floor, looking at an air mattress that had a hole in it with a piece of duct tape over it, to say, this is not my story. What about that promise that you made to God, Kyle? What about this work that you put in, Kyle? What about this? What about that? What about this? See, I think a lot of times it sounds good in the moment when we want to do something. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be the first one in my family to make 6 figures, until you're met with the responsibilities. I'm going to be a good husband until you're met with temptation. I'm going to be a good steward of my money until you're met with trips and stuff. So it took and required a level of, number 2, will. Y'all say it after me, will. When I ran my first half marathon, 6 months before that, I was 250 pounds. 250. But I started working. Because I went into the doctor. They said, Kyle, if you continue on this journey, you're going to have a heart attack. I said, huh? Me? 20-something years old? So 6 months, I started working. Friend of mine was signing up for a half marathon. I was going to support her that morning. I had my shorts in the back. I'm like, let's do it. So then, threw my sneakers on, threw my shorts on. I went and paid the registration fee. And you know, when the gun goes off, what do you do? When the gun goes off, what do you do? See, a lot of y'all, the gun is going off, but y'all still sitting in your seats. God said move, but you still standing. And then you wonder why opportunity is not coming. And then you wonder why love is not happening. You wonder why wealth isn't happening, because you haven't taken action. Faith without works and good deeds is what? So you're wondering why there's no resources in your business. You wonder why your disciples haven't come yet, because you're not taking action. See, the reality of it is in Matthew's, the scripture that I studied is before Jesus started performing miracles, he fasted for 40 days, 40 nights. Then he went to the wilderness led by the Spirit. He was tempted 3 times. Didn't do any miracles then. Then he made it through the temptation. Then the disciples came because he took action, because he was obedient. See, a lot of us, we're not operating in that. So then we're wondering why the opportunities don't come. So I just started running. Because my preparation for that 6 months, whether it was 6 months or 5 months, whatever, it didn't matter. I felt confident and faithful enough in my belief that I could do it. So I just started running. And the reality of it is, it's funny because when you just start running, everybody around you is excited for you until you get to mile 6. And then you start seeing the people that were next to you aren't next to you anymore. There's some people that I didn't even know was running out here. And then you got to mile 8. And then you start seeing a gap. It's like, where is everybody? Because some people speed up, but some people slow down. And the message there for y'all, stop running everybody else's race and run your race. You don't need 10,000 subscribers to make $10,000. You don't need any social media to make 100,000. I completely got off of social media. I have 85 followers on my new social media account, but every month I can guarantee at least $18,500 coming in without me working at all. At all. So what's more important? You being notable or you building wealth? So I just started running. We got to mile 8, we got to mile 9, and this is where preparation kicks in, and this is where that will kicks in. So I got to mile 10, and my whole right leg started cramping up. But I kept running. I got to mile 11. My whole left leg started cramping up. So at this point, I had to slow down my pace. And this is where it comes in. Y'all got to give yourselves grace. Just slow it down a little bit. You don't have to post 5 times this week. If 3 helps with your mental health, that's okay. We're building a business. We're not running a race. We're not running a sprint. It's a marathon. It's a journey. So I had to slow it down. I had to slow down my pace, but I was not what? I was not stopping. I was not walking. There's a difference. So I started jogging. I kept going. Hurting and all. It didn't matter. I kept going. I kept going. I got to mile 12 though, and I wanted to stop. That was probably the most pain that I ever felt in my life. Hands down. My foot was cramping at the end of the race. My toes were black. My foot was cramping all the way up. Both legs, done. On my skin, you could see like the white, kind of like salt. I was dehydrated. I was done. But you know what kicks in at that mile 12? When I saw Dietrich in his lifeless body. You know what kicks in at mile 12? When I had to watch a young black woman giving birth to a lifeless child. You know what I had to kick in at mile 12? When I saw my son sitting on that air mattress with tape in it. See, and a lot of y'all are at your mile 12. A lot of y'all came to this conference because you want to thrive. A lot of y'all came to this conference because you want to make an impact. A lot of y'all came here today because you want something different and you're at your mile 12, but a lot of you cannot cross the finish line because you're stopping. A lot of you can't cross the finish line because you're worried about somebody else's pace. A lot of y'all can't cross the finish line because your will hasn't kicked in. It's not about motivation at this mile. Motivation was to start the race. That motivate, I want to feel inspired today. I want to have affirmation. That stuff doesn't work. You gotta focus. Discipline and commitment is I do not want to go to the gym today, but I have to. Discipline and commitment is I do not want to stay up with him while he's throwing up at night on me at 2 o'clock in the morning, knowing I have a meeting at 8 o'clock and a gym session at 5 o'clock, but I'm not going to cancel the 5 o'clock meeting because I'm training for a 100-mile marathon. I can't cancel the 8 o'clock because that's my team. We're going to. That's what discipline is like. When the responsibilities of life are necessary for us to be able to accomplish everything that we want. And then we have number 3, our why. See, when your why, in every stage of my life, in every stage, it talks about it all the time in anything. Your calling on you is much more greater than your circumstance. I don't care what you say. The calling that has been placed on you from birth, the authority that you already have from birth is more powerful than the disappointment that person had, than the betrayal that partner had, than the mistake that you made in your business that cost you $100,000. I invested in a coach, $50,000, made nothing, but I took it as a loss. I just paid $50,000 to learn something. See, that's when those words kick in. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to learn and grow and empower somebody else so that they don't make that same mistake. I'm going to have a will that even though this didn't work out, I'm going to continue to move forward. Because I recognize my why is the most powerful asset that God has ever given me. Ever. Because I know that I have authority and dominion here on earth. And it is my responsibility to be obedient so that I could use the gift that he has given me to be able to sow into his kingdom. So how can you expect somebody to invest in you and your business if you're not willing to invest in his kingdom? How can you expect somebody to show up and pay you the money that you're asking if you don't even have a payment system in place? How can you expect somebody to respect your business if you don't even spend time in your business every day? So what is our why? Like, what is the thing that regardless if we have an attitude, regardless if we go through it a little bit, regardless if we just not having a good day, what is the thing that gets us up every morning? To focus on this thing that we've created. If you are here just to make money, this is probably the wrong space for you. Because I know when I talk to Aaliyah about how this business got started and how her mom poured into her and the relationship there's a why and there's a story. And when we talk on our calls about her book, it just flows. That's why she's built what she's built. So the reality of it is your why is your story. But until you unpack it and you trust yourself enough and you believe that that story is worth it and you believe that that story is valuable, you're sacrificing the impact that you can make. There was a story of Bill Clinton. He was working on his book, and he was working with an audio engineer because they were getting ready to make it an audio book. But it was too long. So he was working with the audio engineer on cutting some of the aspects of the book to be able to make it short enough so that it can make sense for the consumer. So they get to the part of the scandal. Everybody knows the scandal of Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton looks at the audio engineer. He says, "Is this significant?" The audio engineer says, "Yes, Mr. President, this is significant." So I'm going to close by saying you are significant beyond measure. The things that you have been through, the mistakes that you have made, the things that you desire, the things that, whether they're directly or indirectly connected to your business, it matters. And that story that I have given about how I lost a child, saved a child in a school system that wanted to get pregnant at 13 years old by just sharing it. That story of how I wasn't able to tend to Carter in the way that I wanted to tend to him saved a single father in being able to get his stuff together. Now he's built a business, wrote a book, and now he's successful. So I'm not here to sell you on writing a book. That's not my job. But what I do want to do, it's my responsibility to pour into you, to tell you, you got to do something. And y'all, everybody sitting here, it's one thing to come out to these conferences and look cute and get nice and dressed up and network and connect, but it's another thing to take action. Because a lot of us, there's 10% of us in this room that will go after this conference and actually go take action, intentional action, and then we'll sit into this room next year and you'll be on this stage talking about how you made your first $250,000. 10%. In every area of life, there's a statistic. A good one, you could be on one side of the statistic, you could be on the other side of the statistic. And if we are starting with our heart, and if we are writing our story, and we're understanding ourselves, and we're giving and sowing into our communities, and we're committed to our businesses, I can guarantee this time next year, if something actually changes in yourself first, you'll see a transformation in your business. Thank you.